Darkness has always been fertile ground for human imagination. Throughout history, whenever technology leapt forward faster than our understanding, new myths and fears followed. In the mid-1990s, a chilling narrative began to circulate through late-night radio shows, photocopied pamphlets, and the earliest corners of the internet. It promised nothing less than the end of the world as we know it, an end not brought by nature, but carefully engineered by hidden powers. This idea became known as Project Blue Beam, a supposed plan by shadowy elites to use advanced technology to create a false second coming, unite the world under a single government, and enslave humanity. To trace the origins of Blue Beam, we have to go back to a time when the world was caught between the lingering paranoia of the Cold War and the dizzying promises of the information age. The Berlin Wall had fallen only a few years earlier, the Soviet Union had dissolved, and the United States emerged as the sole superpower. People were hungry for explanations, for patterns that made sense of a rapidly changing world. Computers were beginning to connect homes, satellites orbited silently overhead, and stories of secret military experiments filled tabloid headlines. Into this environment stepped a Canadian investigative journalist named Serge Monast, whose name would become forever linked to one of the most unsettling conspiracy theories ever told. Monast was not a household name, but he had a gift for weaving disparate threads of fear into a compelling tapestry. In 1994, he self-published a slim French-language book called Projet Blue Beam, NASA. The title itself was electric. NASA, the same agency that had put men on the moon, was now, he claimed, preparing a deception so massive it would shake every faith, topple every government, and usher in a new global order. According to Monast, this was no mere science fiction. It was a carefully constructed plan already in motion, hidden in plain sight. He claimed that the project consisted of 4 distinct stages, each more terrifying than the last. The first involved the deliberate destruction of archaeological knowledge. Earthquakes would reveal new discoveries that challenged every major religion, undermining traditional beliefs. The second stage would unleash breathtaking holographic projections across the sky, giant images of religious figures, tailored to each culture, speaking to entire nations at once. The third stage would employ advanced low-frequency signals to simulate a direct voice inside people's minds, convincing them that God, or perhaps aliens, was communicating with them personally. Finally, the fourth stage would trigger a simulated alien invasion or a false rapture, terrifying humanity into accepting a single world government and a universal religion. It sounded outrageous. Yet Monast insisted he had pieced together evidence from leaked NASA documents, military technology patents, and secret United Nations meetings. He warned that satellites already in orbit could project three-dimensional images so realistic that populations would not be able to distinguish them from reality. "The greatest deception in history," he wrote, "will make the very heavens a screen for the ultimate show." For many, the theory was irresistible. The early 1990s were a golden age for late-night conspiracy talk shows like Coast to Coast AM, where UFO sightings, secret military projects, and government cover-ups were regular fare. Monast's claims combined several of these fears into a single narrative: high technology, government secrecy, religious manipulation, and the specter of a new world order. Even people who doubted the specifics found themselves asking unsettling questions. Could satellites really create holograms in the sky? Could microwave transmissions influence human thoughts? If governments had the means, would they use it? Adding fuel to the fire was Monast's sudden and mysterious death. In December 1996, just 2 years after publishing his Blue Beam papers, he reportedly suffered a fatal heart attack at the age of 51. Friends and followers were quick to point out that he was in good health and had no history of heart problems. The timing was too perfect, they said. To them, it looked less like a natural death and more like the silencing of a man who had stumbled too close to the truth. His warnings, rather than fading, exploded across burgeoning online forums, translated into multiple languages, and shared in underground newsletters. Monast's allegations arrived at a moment when technology was beginning to blur the line between reality and illusion. Laser shows projected dazzling images onto night skies at theme parks. Holographic experiments hinted at three-dimensional visuals that required no screen. Military budgets were quietly funding research into psychological warfare and mind control techniques. In the vacuum of public knowledge, Monast's theory found fertile soil. Each new technological advance seemed to confirm what he had written years earlier. But Project Blue Beam was more than a collection of scary scenarios. At its heart lay a deeper fear that reality itself could be weaponized. Imagine looking up at the sky and seeing a figure of light, Christ, Buddha, or an alien fleet, so vivid that you could almost feel its presence. Imagine a voice speaking directly into your mind, telling you to obey a new global leader. If technology could create such experiences, how could anyone trust their own senses? How could any religion, any government withstand the shock? The theory also played into long-standing anxieties about globalization. In the wake of the Cold War, institutions like the United Nations and NATO were expanding their influence. Free trade agreements were reshaping economies. To some, these changes looked like steps toward a single world government. Monast simply gave these fears a dramatic script and a name: Blue Beam. What made Blue Beam particularly captivating was how it reinterpreted ancient prophecies. Monast pointed to biblical warnings about false messiahs and great deceptions in the sky. He suggested that technology, not divinity, would fulfill these prophecies. In his telling, the Book of Revelation was not a supernatural prediction but a government operations manual. For believers, it was both terrifying and oddly validating. The end times were coming, but in a way that modern science could deliver. Critics, of course, dismissed the theory as a paranoid fantasy. NASA issued no statements about spaceborne holograms. No credible evidence of such a program ever surfaced. Skeptics pointed out that the technology required to project massive 3D images across the entire sky simply did not exist in the 1990s, and arguably still doesn't today. But to true believers, official denials only confirmed the conspiracy. After all, what government would admit to planning the ultimate deception? As the internet grew, so did the legend. Blue Beam forums multiplied, linking the theory to everything from mysterious sky trumpets to unexplained lights over major cities. Every military satellite launch became suspect. Every unexplained sound became a possible test run. The beauty and danger of the theory was its elasticity. It could adapt to any new event, any technological breakthrough, any unexplained phenomenon. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Blue Beam had become a cornerstone of online conspiracy culture. It merged seamlessly with UFO lore, secret space programs, and deep state narratives. When social media emerged, it offered an even larger stage. Videos of strange lights in the sky went viral with captions asking, "Is this Blue Beam?" Each click, each share, breathed new life into a theory that began as a self-published booklet from a Canadian journalist. Today, more than 25 years after Serge Monast's death, Project Blue Beam remains a chilling metaphor for the power of technology and the fragility of human perception. Whether or not NASA ever planned such a scheme, the idea that our senses could be manipulated on a planetary scale feels less impossible with each passing year. Deepfake videos can already put words into the mouths of world leaders. Augmented reality blurs the line between the physical and the digital. Satellites blanket the globe, carrying cameras, sensors, and communication arrays beyond the reach of ordinary citizens. This is where our story begins, with a man who claimed to see a plan so audacious it could rewrite reality itself, and a world increasingly capable of making that plan seem plausible. In the chapters ahead, we will examine the alleged 4 stages of Project Blue Beam, the supposed evidence for each, the mysterious deaths and disappearances linked to the theory, and the reasons it continues to fascinate millions. Because whether Blue Beam is a brilliant hoax or a prophetic warning, it forces us to confront a question that grows more urgent every year. When technology can fool every sense, how will we know what is real? The early decades of the Cold War created the perfect breeding ground for conspiracies like Project Blue Beam. Across the globe, the arms race and the space race intertwined with a cultural obsession with UFOs and extraterrestrial life. Governments were experimenting with new technologies in secrecy, from radar jamming systems to advanced holographic displays, all while ordinary citizens were reporting mysterious lights in the night sky. To some, these were simple coincidences of technological advancement. To others, they were clues, breadcrumbs leading to a far more sinister plan. In the late 1940s and 1950s, as nuclear tensions escalated, sightings of strange objects multiplied at an alarming rate. American pilots flying over the Pacific reported luminous disks performing maneuvers beyond the capabilities of any known aircraft. Soviet radar operators picked up unexplained blips that vanished as quickly as they appeared, sparking frantic internal memos and military alerts. Newspapers filled their front pages with accounts of flying saucers, creating both fascination and fear among the public. Hidden behind the Iron Curtain, both Washington and Moscow conducted covert research into psychological warfare, experimenting with how fear of the unknown could be used to influence populations. Each report, each unexplained radar echo, added another layer of mystery to a sky that seemed increasingly alive with secrets. It was during this volatile period that clandestine programs flourished. In the United States, the CIA launched projects like MKUltra to explore mind control, while military branches tested prototypes for holographic projections, sonic weapons, and weather manipulation. Few outside of classified circles understood the true scope of these experiments. Yet whispers emerged, stories of artificial clouds masking aircraft, sound frequencies capable of inducing panic, and even early laser systems that could create shimmering images in the sky. What if these technologies were not merely for defense, but for shaping belief itself? What if the sky could be turned into a stage, and the human mind into an instrument of control? The rise of the space age only intensified the paranoia. When the Soviet Union launched Sputnik in 1957, the world looked upward in awe and dread. Suddenly, the heavens were no longer untouchable. Satellites orbited above, invisible to the naked eye but capable of transmitting signals across the globe. If humanity could send machines into space, could those same machines be used to create illusions? The question lingered in classified reports and late-night conversations among scientists and intelligence officers. For many, the leap from communications satellite to global projection system was not as far-fetched as it might seem. Meanwhile, the United Nations began to play an increasingly visible role in global affairs, promoting ideals of peace and cooperation. For conspiracy theorists, this international body became the perfect villain, a faceless organization supposedly plotting a new world order. Some claimed that hidden factions within the UN were secretly funding research into advanced projection technologies. Documents, often photocopied and leaked through obscure channels, spoke of satellites capable of beaming holographic images onto the atmosphere. Were these merely science fiction fantasies, or the blueprints for something real? Believers insisted that the UN's growing influence and mysterious budgets pointed to an agenda that reached far beyond diplomacy. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, UFO hysteria reached new heights. From the deserts of Nevada to the forests of Russia, sightings multiplied and grew bolder. Governments offered mundane explanations: weather balloons, experimental jets, misidentified stars, but many found these answers unsatisfying. In the United States, the famous Blue Book investigations attempted to catalog and explain the phenomenon, but their dry conclusions only fueled suspicions of a cover-up. Conspiracy researchers began to weave a narrative that connected all the dots: the mysterious lights, the secret weapons programs, the rise of global governance. In their view, Project Blue Beam was no longer a theory. It was a plan unfolding step by step, hidden in plain sight. By the 1980s, technological breakthroughs brought these fears into sharper focus. Holography advanced from crude laboratory experiments to dazzling public demonstrations in museums and theme parks. Lasers painted three-dimensional shapes in midair. Audio systems could project directional sound that seemed to come from nowhere. To believers, these inventions were not mere entertainment. They were evidence, proof that governments now possessed the tools to stage the ultimate illusion. A global event so spectacular it could unite or enslave humanity. Consider the psychological impact of such a spectacle. Imagine millions looking up at the night sky to see glowing orbs arranging themselves into sacred symbols, or hearing a voice that seemed to emanate from the clouds. Religious texts predicted signs and wonders in the heavens, and believers across cultures were primed to interpret such phenomena as divine. Could an artificial miracle be used to manipulate the faithful into accepting a single world religion? or to surrender their freedoms to a global authority. For those following the trail of Project Blue Beam, this was not a hypothetical question. It was a warning. Governments, of course, denied any such ambitions, but denial only fed the fire. Each technological milestone seemed to align with prophecies long whispered among the faithful. When astronauts broadcast their voices from space, when images of Earth were transmitted across vast distances, when laser light shows dazzled crowds at world fairs, conspiracy theorists saw rehearsals. If human technology could place a man on the moon, could it not also place an image of a deity in the sky? As the Cold War dragged on, intelligence agencies perfected the art of secrecy. Black budgets funded projects whose true purposes remain classified to this day. Some insiders claimed that satellites capable of projecting images onto the ionosphere had already been tested in remote regions. Others pointed to strange atmospheric disturbances and unexplained sonic booms as possible evidence of experiments gone unnoticed by the public. Each leak, each rumor, added another layer to the mystery. Engineers who spoke out described prototypes for acoustic shaping devices that could create phantom voices. Former radar technicians whispered about sudden bursts of energy that painted phantom aircraft across screens. By the time the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, the geopolitical landscape had shifted, but the tools of deception had not disappeared. If anything, they had grown more sophisticated. The end of the Cold War created a vacuum, a world no longer divided by ideology but ripe for a new form of control. And in the minds of Project Blue Beam believers, this was the moment the architects of the plan had been waiting for. The stage was set, the technology perfected, and the world population more connected and more vulnerable than ever before. This era of hidden research, psychological experiments, and rapid technological progress laid the foundation for what would become the most chilling claims of the Blue Beam theory. In the next chapter, the alleged blueprint of the operation would be revealed. A step-by-step guide to the ultimate deception, where faith, fear, and science collide in a spectacle meant to reshape the destiny of humanity. For those watching the skies, the pattern seemed undeniable. Each new satellite launch, each unexplained light, each cryptic military exercise felt like a rehearsal for something larger. The Cold War may have ended, but the secret war for the human mind was only beginning. And as the 1990s approached, the whispers of Project Blue Beam grew louder, carrying with them a single chilling promise. The next great war would not be fought on Earth, but in the heavens above, and in the beliefs of every person looking up at the stars. If the first decades of the Cold War laid the technological groundwork for Project Blue Beam, the next phase, the alleged blueprint, would turn those tools into a grand psychological operation. According to the most widely circulated version of the theory, first popularized in the 1990s by Canadian journalist Serge Monast, the plan unfolds in 4 chilling stages, each designed to break down human belief systems and rebuild them under a single global authority. Whether these stages are fact or fevered speculation, their details are compelling enough to capture imaginations worldwide. Monast claimed to have obtained leaked documents describing a United Nations-backed initiative that would use cutting-edge technology to manipulate the masses. At the heart of the plan was a simple but terrifying idea: engineer a false end-times event so convincing that people everywhere would abandon their existing religions, embrace a new world faith, and submit to a one-world government. The alleged operation was not a single hoax but a carefully sequenced psychological campaign, each phase building on the confusion and fear created by the one before. The first stage, Monast alleged, would focus on manufacturing worldwide upheaval in the realm of science and history. Governments and scientists would release discoveries that discredited religious traditions and rewrote the story of human origins. Ancient artifacts would mysteriously surface, supposedly proving that sacred texts were based on misunderstandings or deliberate lies. Hidden archaeological finds, perhaps a long-lost manuscript or a mysterious fossil, would appear in places like the pyramids of Egypt, the caves of Tibet, or even beneath the Antarctic ice. Mainstream media would amplify these revelations, undermining confidence in religious leaders and sowing doubt in every faith system. To believers in the theory, the real purpose of these staged discoveries would not be to enlighten humanity but to destabilize it. If the pillars of faith could be shaken, people would be more vulnerable to the spectacle that followed. Imagine a televised press conference where scientists announce that they have found definitive proof of alien genetic manipulation in human DNA, or a sudden revelation that key religious figures were themselves extraterrestrial visitors. Even the most devout might feel a creeping uncertainty. And uncertainty, Monast warned, was the first step toward control. The second stage is the heart of the Project Blue Beam legend, a global holographic show so spectacular it would appear to be a supernatural event. Using a network of satellites, powerful lasers, and advanced projection systems, governments would create enormous three-dimensional images in the sky over every major city. Each region would see different manifestations tailored to its dominant religion. Christ descending through clouds over Rome, a luminous Buddha appearing above the Himalayas, a radiant Muhammad over the Middle East. These figures would merge into a single universal deity, broadcasting a message of unity and salvation. The technology behind this step might sound fantastical, but proponents of the theory point to real scientific advances to argue its feasibility. Experiments with ionospheric heating, such as those conducted by HAARP in Alaska, can create glowing shapes in the upper atmosphere. Holographic projection has evolved to produce floating images without a physical screen. Directional sound systems can transmit voices directly to the human ear without any visible source. Combined, these technologies could create a spectacle so overwhelming that people would struggle to distinguish illusion from reality. Monast even described how the holograms would be synchronized with audio transmissions designed to mimic the inner voice of each observer. Using a technique called silent sound, ultra-low frequency waves would allegedly interact with the brain, making individuals believe they were receiving a direct message from a divine being. The goal was not merely to dazzle the eyes, but to invade the mind itself, creating a deeply personal encounter that no televised miracle could match. Once the skies had been filled with divine apparitions, Stage 3 would introduce the next escalation, a simulated extraterrestrial attack. Monast claimed that a coalition of hidden powers, often described as a shadowy UN cabal, would orchestrate massive aerial displays of alien craft, complete with sonic booms, destructive energy weapons, and carefully staged attacks on major cities. Military forces would respond in a coordinated but ultimately ineffective defense, reinforcing the illusion that humanity faced an external, otherworldly threat. The purpose of this fake invasion, according to the theory, was twofold. First, it would justify the creation of a single, unified global military force to protect Earth, effectively dissolving national sovereignty. Second, it would condition the population to believe that salvation could only come from surrendering to a central authority capable of defeating the supposed alien enemy. Fear, not faith, would drive the masses into the arms of the architects behind the deception. Some versions of the story go even further, claiming that actual advanced aircraft, black-budget projects hidden within military programs, would be used to create physical destruction in select areas, lending credibility to the holographic invaders. Witnesses would see not only lights in the sky, but also explosions, power outages, and mysterious electromagnetic pulses. To those already reeling from the celestial miracles of Stage 2, the alien threat would feel terrifyingly real. The final stage of Project Blue Beam is the most intimate and the most insidious. After the false revelations, the heavenly projections, and the staged alien invasion, a single figure, a digital messiah, would emerge as the savior of humanity. This leader, whether portrayed as a returning Christ, a cosmic being, or a technologically enhanced human, would call for the unification of all religions into a single faith. At the same time, a new world government would be presented as the only logical solution to prevent future cosmic disasters. To ensure compliance, Monast warned, the architects of Blue Beam planned to deploy a global electronic network capable of reading and influencing thoughts. Satellites would beam signals into every corner of the planet, subtly manipulating human emotions and even causing hallucinations in those who resisted. The technology, he claimed, already existed in experimental form, citing military research into electromagnetic frequency control and voice-to-skull transmission. Under such conditions, the boundary between reality and illusion would dissolve entirely. People would no longer trust their senses or their own minds. Mainstream scientists and journalists dismissed these claims as pure fantasy. They argue that the technical challenges of projecting high-resolution images across the entire sky, synchronized to appear differently to billions of viewers, are astronomical. Even the most advanced holographic systems require controlled environments, not open air. Critics also note that Monast never produced verifiable documents to support his allegations. His sudden death in 1996, officially attributed to a heart attack, has fueled speculation, but no concrete evidence has ever surfaced to confirm the existence of Project Blue Beam. Yet the lack of proof has not weakened the story's grip on popular culture. If anything, it has strengthened it. In an era of deepfakes, AI-generated voices, and satellite constellations blanketing the night sky, the idea that a powerful group could manipulate what we see and hear no longer feels as impossible as it once did. Each technological breakthrough, a new laser array, a breakthrough in brain-computer interfaces, a mysterious military exercise, becomes, for believers, another piece of the puzzle. Whether fact or fiction, the four-stage plan described by Monast functions as more than a conspiracy theory. It is a cautionary tale about the intersection of technology, belief, and power. In a world where information can be weaponized and images can be fabricated with astonishing realism, Project Blue Beam forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How easily could our senses be deceived? How much trust do we place in the sky above or the voice within? And if a spectacle unfolded tomorrow, lights shimmering across continents, a voice calling for unity, how many would believe it? As the story of Project Blue Beam spread through underground newsletters and early internet forums in the 1990s, it found fertile ground among UFO enthusiasts, religious prophecy watchers, and skeptics of global governance. Some saw it as a literal warning of a coming deception. Others interpreted it metaphorically as a symbol of how technology could erode the boundaries between truth and illusion. Either way, the blueprint captured a deep and enduring fear that the next great revelation might not come from the heavens or from alien worlds, but from human hands wielding machines capable of rewriting reality itself. With the alleged plan laid bare, the stage is set for the final chapters of the theory, chapters that move beyond description into speculation about when and how such an operation might actually be launched. For those who believe, every rocket launch, every unexplained sky phenomenon, and every political crisis could be the opening act of the greatest show the world has ever seen. If Project Blue Beam were merely a relic of 1990s conspiracy culture, it might have faded into obscurity. Yet the theory continues to thrive because reality keeps providing fuel for its fire. In the decades since Serge Monast first outlined the alleged plan, the world has witnessed a cascade of technological breakthroughs, unexplained phenomena, and geopolitical shifts that seem, at least to believers, to echo the blueprint he described. Whether coincidence or confirmation, these developments blur the line between science fiction and present-day fact, inviting us to wonder if the grand deception might already be unfolding in plain sight. In the mid-1990s, the idea of a global satellite network capable of projecting images onto the atmosphere sounded like pure fantasy. But today, low-Earth orbit constellations have become a reality. Companies like SpaceX's Starlink, Amazon's Kuiper, and OneWeb have launched thousands of satellites, creating a near-continuous web of orbiting technology. Officially, these networks promise faster internet and improved communications. For Blue Beam believers, however, they represent something far more ominous: a ready-made platform for the worldwide broadcast of holographic illusions. Videos of glowing satellite trains streaking across the night sky, spectacular but mundane to astronomers, are often recirculated online as proof that the infrastructure for a planetary projection system already exists. If a private company can deploy such a fleet for commercial purposes, what could a coalition of governments accomplish behind the scenes? The question hangs heavy in forums where every satellite launch is scrutinized as a potential step toward the ultimate sky show. Alongside the spread of satellites, mysterious sky events have only intensified public fascination. From spiraling auroras over Norway to pulsing orbs above the American Southwest, videos of unexplained lights travel at the speed of social media, igniting speculation across the globe. In 2020, residents of Phoenix captured footage of a massive V-shaped formation hovering silently in the night, a chilling echo of the infamous Phoenix Lights of 1997. Official explanations, ranging from flares to atmospheric reflections, rarely satisfy those convinced that something larger is at play. Consider also the 2017 release of Pentagon UFO videos, showing Navy pilots tracking unidentified aerial phenomena that defied known physics. Government officials who once mocked UFO reports now speak openly of unexplained craft and unknown capabilities. To Project Blue Beam believers, these revelations are not admissions of extraterrestrial life but signals of a carefully managed narrative. The slow drip of information, they argue, conditions the public to accept the idea of alien contact, a necessary precursor to stage 3 of the alleged plan, a simulated alien invasion. Perhaps the most compelling fuel for the blue beam theory is the rapid evolution of deepfake technology and artificial intelligence. In Monast's time, holographic projections were crude novelties. Today, algorithms can generate photorealistic faces, synthesize human voices, and produce entire videos indistinguishable from reality. AI models create synthetic news anchors capable of delivering scripted messages in any language, with perfect lip synchronization and emotional nuance. For skeptics of global power structures, these tools are a nightmare realized. If a single individual can create a fake video of a world leader declaring war, imagine what a state-level actor could achieve. A perfectly rendered image of a deity appearing in the sky no longer feels like magic. It feels like an engineering challenge on the verge of completion. Every viral deepfake, whether humorous or malicious, reinforces the notion that seeing is no longer believing. No discussion of Project Blue Beam is complete without mentioning HAARP, the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program in Alaska. Officially a scientific installation for studying the ionosphere, HAARP uses powerful radio transmitters to heat charged particles in the upper atmosphere. Scientists say the research helps improve communications and navigation systems. Conspiracy theorists, however, see HAARP as a smoking gun. They point to experiments that create glowing auroral effects or artificial plasma clouds, claiming these demonstrations are prototypes for the massive projections required by Stage 2 of Blue Beam. Though experts insist HAARP's capabilities are far too limited to generate planet-wide holograms, the visual similarity between its test images and Monast's descriptions of heavenly signs is enough to keep suspicion alive. Other nations, including Russia, China, and the European Union, operate similar facilities, adding to the sense that a global race for atmospheric control is underway. While technology provides the means, social upheaval provides the motive. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed how quickly global crises can reshape behavior, from lockdowns to mass vaccination campaigns coordinated across continents. To believers, this was not just a public health emergency but a rehearsal, a proof of concept showing how fear can unite populations under centralized rules almost overnight. Theories proliferated online claiming that the pandemic was a dry run for the psychological operations required by Project Blue Beam. This interpretation gained traction when governments introduced digital tracking apps, QR code passes, and widespread surveillance measures. Though these tools were intended to control the spread of disease, conspiracy communities viewed them as components of the final stage of Blue Beam, a system of total electronic control. The more connected the world becomes, the easier it seems for hidden powers to coordinate the grand illusion Monast described. Blue Beam theory also draws energy from ongoing religious tensions. Conflicts in the Middle East, debates over holy sites, and the global resurgence of apocalyptic rhetoric provide fertile ground for a narrative that predicts a manufactured, universal faith. In 2019, the construction of the Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi, a complex designed to host a mosque, a church, and a synagogue side by side, was hailed by many as a symbol of interfaith harmony. To others, it looked suspiciously like a preview of the single-world religion foretold in Stage 4. Even popular culture feeds the fire. Films like Arrival, Interstellar, and The Matrix explore themes of reality manipulation, alien contact, and hidden truths. Megaconcerts and Olympic opening ceremonies feature massive holographic displays visible to millions, inadvertently demonstrating the scale of spectacle now possible. Each dazzling performance becomes, for some viewers, an unintentional advertisement for the feasibility of Project Blue Beam. In recent years, scattered reports of mystery booms and sky trumpets have circulated online. Residents in cities from Kiev to Sao Paulo describe hearing eerie sounds with no apparent source, sometimes accompanied by flashes of light. Scientists attribute these noises to atmospheric phenomena or distant thunder, but blue beam enthusiasts interpret them as tests of directional sound technology. The very silent sound Monas claimed would transmit telepathic messages during the operation. Similarly, rumors of unexplained power outages and sudden GPS disruptions often trend on social media. When entire regions briefly lose satellite communication, conspiracy forums light up with speculation that secret agencies are rehearsing the blackout scenarios required to stage an alien invasion or divine appearance. In the age of instant communication, every unexplained glitch becomes potential evidence. Why does Project Blue Beam persist despite decades of debunking? Part of its resilience lies in its flexibility. Because the plan is said to involve cutting-edge technology and global secrecy, any new invention or geopolitical crisis can be folded into the narrative. A satellite launch, a deepfake scandal, a mysterious light in the sky, each becomes a puzzle piece in an ever-evolving mosaic. The theory feeds on ambiguity. The absence of definitive proof is not a weakness but a feature. Moreover, Blue Beam speaks to a deeper cultural anxiety, the fear that our senses can no longer be trusted. In an age of deepfakes, augmented reality, and AI-generated voices, the idea of a fabricated apocalypse feels less like a paranoid fantasy and more like a metaphor for our relationship with truth itself. Believers see each technological leap as confirmation that Monas's warnings were prophetic. Skeptics see a cautionary tale about the dangers of disinformation and the erosion of critical thinking. The enduring allure of Project Blue Beam lies in its dual nature. It is both a thrilling science fiction scenario and a chilling commentary on power. Whether or not a global cabal is secretly plotting to project deities into the sky, the world already contains the ingredients Monas feared: unprecedented surveillance, psychological manipulation, and technology capable of shaping perception on a planetary scale. As we look toward the future, where mixed reality spectacles, satellite megaconstellations, and AI-driven media continue to blur the boundaries of experience, the core question remains disturbingly relevant. If a dazzling apparition appeared overhead tomorrow, accompanied by a voice speaking directly into your mind, how certain could you be of its source? Would you trust your eyes, your ears, or the network of devices carrying the signal? These are the doubts that keep Project Blue Beam alive. Each new satellite, each mysterious light, each viral deepfake is not just a data point. It is a reminder that in a world where reality can be engineered, belief itself may be the final battleground. And if the first 3 stages of the alleged plan are already seeding our collective imagination, the stage may be set for the final act, a revelation that could unite or divide humanity in ways we can barely imagine. As the story moves toward its climax, believers insist that the ultimate spectacle is not a distant fantasy, but an imminent possibility. The question is no longer whether the technology exists. It is whether, when the skies finally blaze with impossible visions, humanity will recognize the deception or embrace it. If the previous chapters of Project Blue Beam are a carefully staged theater of illusions, the final act is meant to deliver the ultimate transformation of human society. Serge Monas described this climax as the unveiling of a new world order, a system of control so persuasive and spectacular that it would leave no room for resistance. Whether or not one believes the details of his warning, this concluding stage forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about power, perception, and the fragile boundary between faith and manipulation. According to Monas, after the skies have dazzled humanity with celestial images, after the simulated alien threat has terrified nations into cooperation, the world will be presented with a single, unifying revelation. This revelation will supposedly come in the form of a universal Messiah, a figure capable of bridging every religious divide. Projected simultaneously over every region, speaking every language, this being would claim to fulfill the prophecies of all faiths while subtly rewriting them into a new doctrine. The purpose, Monas argued, is not spiritual enlightenment but political consolidation. By fusing religious traditions into a single belief system, the architects of Blue Beam would create the ideological foundation for a centralized global government. People would not simply obey out of fear. they would worship the very system that rules them. To believers, this is the most insidious step of all, because it weaponizes humanity's deepest longing for meaning and connection. Consider how modern society might react to such an event. In an age of live streams and instant translation, a simultaneous appearance across continents would be technically achievable. Artificial intelligence could generate personalized messages tailored to each viewer's beliefs, reinforcing the illusion that a divine presence is speaking directly to them. In the chaos of a global crisis, whether a fabricated alien invasion or an economic collapse, many might embrace the promise of peace, never realizing that their faith has been engineered. For this final stage to succeed, Monas claimed, the planners of Bluebeam would need more than dazzling technology. They would require a comprehensive surveillance system to monitor every individual, predict behavior, and suppress dissent before it can spread. Decades ago, this sounded implausible. Today, it resembles the infrastructure of modern life. Smartphones track location and activity. Facial recognition cameras scan crowds in real time. Social media algorithms predict moods and preferences with eerie accuracy. Digital currencies and centralized banking systems create a record of every transaction. Governments and corporations already possess the means to observe and influence billions of people simultaneously. To those wary of hidden agendas, these tools look less like conveniences and more like the nervous system of a planetary regime. Even without a single controlling entity, the convergence of these technologies creates a world where privacy is an illusion. In such an environment, the line between voluntary participation and coerced compliance becomes dangerously thin. Whether or not Project Bluebeam exists as a literal plan, the conditions for its success, constant connectivity, instant communication, and data-driven manipulation, are undeniably real. The deeper implication of Bluebeam is not just that technology can fool our senses, but that reality itself can be weaponized. If people can be made to doubt their own perception, they become easier to control. This principle is not confined to hypothetical sky shows. It already operates in the everyday information wars of politics, advertising, and social media. Consider how quickly false narratives spread online, how easily deepfakes can create convincing footage of events that never occurred. In such a landscape, a staged miracle need not be perfect to succeed. It only needs to overwhelm the senses long enough for emotional reactions. Fear, awe, devotion, to override critical thinking. By the time doubts arise, the psychological impact may be irreversible. This is why Bluebeam resonates so strongly in the modern era. It dramatizes a fear many already feel, that truth itself is under siege. Whether the threat comes from governments, corporations, or shadowy elites, the effect is the same. People begin to question not just institutions but their own ability to discern reality. In that uncertainty, the architects of deception, real or imagined, find their greatest advantage. While Project Bluebeam is often dismissed as pure speculation, history offers unsettling parallels. Ancient rulers staged celestial omens to legitimize their reigns. Medieval monarchs used elaborate pageantry to convince subjects of divine favor. In the 20th century, authoritarian regimes mastered the art of mass spectacle, blending propaganda, technology, and ritual to shape public consciousness. The tools have changed, but the strategy remains familiar. Control perception to control behavior. What Bluebeam adds to this tradition is a futuristic twist, using advanced science not merely to influence belief, but to simulate the very fabric of the supernatural. Whether or not anyone is secretly planning such an operation, the possibility alone serves as a warning about how easily technology can revive ancient forms of manipulation in modern dress. At its core, the Bluebeam narrative is less about satellites or holograms than about the fragility of belief. It suggests that humanity's deepest convictions, religion, morality, even reality itself, can be engineered like a software update. This idea is both terrifying and strangely liberating. Terrifying because it implies that nothing is sacred. Liberating because it forces us to reclaim personal responsibility for what we accept as truth. In this light, the final revelation may not be a staged alien invasion or a digital messiah. It may be the recognition that faith is a choice. No matter how dazzling the spectacle, No projection can compel genuine belief unless people surrender their own discernment. The real battle, then, is not in the sky but in the human mind. Skeptics rightly point out that no evidence has ever surfaced to prove Project Bluebeam exists. Monast himself relied on anonymous sources and unverifiable claims. Scientists dismiss the notion of sky-filling holograms as physically impossible with current technology. Many of the signs believers cite, satellite launches, deepfake videos, unexplained lights, have mundane explanations. From this perspective, Bluebeam is less a secret plan than a cautionary parable. It reflects anxieties about globalization, surveillance, and the erosion of objective truth. By framing these issues as a grand conspiracy, the theory dramatizes real social concerns in a way that captures the imagination. In doing so, it inadvertently teaches a valuable lesson: that critical thinking is the only reliable defense against manipulation. Whether one views Bluebeam as prophecy or paranoia, its themes feel increasingly relevant. We already inhabit a world where spectacle shapes reality. Political rallies resemble rock concerts. Social media influencers curate entire personas that blur the line between authenticity and performance. Virtual reality and augmented reality promise to merge the digital and the physical until the difference becomes irrelevant. In such an environment, the question is not whether a single world government will stage a fake apocalypse. It is how each of us will navigate a future where truth competes with infinite simulations. Will we demand evidence before accepting extraordinary claims? Will we teach future generations to question their senses? Or will we surrender to the comfort of believing whatever dazzles us most? Perhaps the most unsettling possibility is that the Bluebeam Monast warned about is not a literal light in the sky, but the glow of the screens we already hold in our hands. Smartphones, tablets, and monitors beam images into our eyes every waking hour, shaping opinions, desires, and fears. The ultimate illusion may not require satellites or holograms. It may simply require the algorithms that already decide what we see, hear, and believe. If that is the case, then Project Bluebeam is not a conspiracy waiting to happen. It is a metaphor for the present moment, a world where technology mediates every experience, and where the difference between manipulation and reality grows harder to define each day. In the end, the story of Project Bluebeam is a mirror. It reflects our hopes and fears about power, technology, and the nature of truth. Some will see in it a dire warning of things to come. Others will dismiss it as a paranoid fantasy. But both groups must grapple with the same reality. We live in an age when illusions can be manufactured at scale, and where the battle for belief is waged not in secret government labs but in the human imagination. So if one day the sky erupts in a breathtaking display, a colossal figure speaking in every language, promising unity and peace, the real test will not be whether the spectacle is technologically possible. It will be whether we can resist the urge to bow before it. Because the greatest revelation of all may be this: no projection, however dazzling, can control a mind that refuses to surrender its own judgment. And perhaps that is the true safeguard Monast hoped to inspire. Not fear of a hidden cabal, but vigilance against the everyday seductions of spectacle. In a world where the line between reality and illusion grows ever thinner, the final defense is not a government, a religion, or a secret society. It is the simple, stubborn act of choosing what to believe.